You're interrupting the service.
I'm not interrupting nothing.
Let's go. Interrupting the service,
okay?
man.
Let's go and pray.
Come on, let's go pray. Come on.
Let's go for it.
How's everyone's Monday night doing? Good, right?
Good.
All the time.
Alright, that's all. Okay.
You stood before creation, eternity in your hand. You spoke the earth into motion, my soul
I forgot I was going to pray next. I was like, oh, I'm ready for the message. Mallory, come on. You're going to have 10 minutes more. Some days, you just have to take a breath. And you got to step back. And you got to just seek Him. For some of you, that may have been one of the first times you've ever seen a disturbance like that in church. And let me just say, I'm proud of how you guys handled it. Even when he was coming at you, I saw King, he was like,
I wasn't trying to fight you.
no, you did. You backed down. This community, like every other community, has a lot of homeless, a lot of mental health. How much they realize what's going on or don't go on, the conversations going on. You have to have Christ's love. Him and I just talked outside for quite a while. We prayed. He still thinks I'm good. He won't kill me. He told me 5 or 6 times. But the most important thing to remember is he's still a creation of God. Regardless of what happened down here, he's still a creation of God. And his name's Craig. You might see him around campus. I don't know. I rather hope not, because I think there's a safety aspect there. But his name's Craig. He's a real guy with real issues. But we talked about Christ for quite a while up here. And we prayed for quite a while up here. And we're going to pray now. Because everything has to be covered in prayer that you do. The good, the bad, the ugly. When you're sitting in a class, you're like, this teacher doesn't understand. I don't get what they're teaching me. When you're at home and you're talking with parents or grandparents, aunts and uncles, you're like, you don't live my life. You don't understand the struggles I have. When I'm helping my daughter with her algebra in 6th grade, and I have no clue, because that's what I did as a junior in high school. God still loves us. God still cares for us. And we still pray for each other. So we're going to continue what we've been doing for prayer over the last several weeks. I'm going to ask you to find, I don't know how many are in here, 2 or 3 other people. And we're just going to take some time and take some deep breaths and stop. Ask the other person's name, even if you know them well, even if you know their middle name. Ask them their name. And you're going to ask them. And be honest. And it may be awkward, and I hope it's a little bit awkward, because nothing fun is not awkward. Ask them how you can pray for them today. If you're at home on the live stream, ask whoever's close to you how you can pray for them today. And then pray. And don't just give them, oh God, lift up this person. But pray deep for them. They may have something they're not ready to talk about, and you might need to pray for it anyway. Some here are just starting their college career. Some here are getting ready to do the last quarter. And everything in between, and that can be scary on all levels. I encourage you to really connect with God in this time, in this course. So find a couple other people around you. Ask them in. That's polite. And pray with them. And each other. Go. When I call you back, if you're still praying, don't stop. Go ahead and keep going. Mallory won't care. She'll just wait for you. Awkwardly. Just gently. But go ahead and go pray. as you wrap up your prayer time, and I'm not saying stop, just start finding your space. Mallory will get ready to bring what God's laid on our heart. So let me close this in prayer. Dear Heavenly, most gracious God, some days we don't know what to do. Some days we know exactly what to do. Help us on both times and in between. Lord, I pray for each person in this room tonight and the lives that they touch, that their lives might be a true reflection of who you are to the world today. A world that's hurting and a world that's confused some days, a world that's confident in their own abilities some days, yet all of us need to seek and find you and walk where you walk. Lord, you love us to no end. We pray that you would just be with all of us. Amen. So starting off our student series this year is Mallory Dowell. I want to say McDowell. I don't know why I want to call you McDowell. She's going to be bringing the first of our student series that we're going all the way through May. And so, what God's laid in our heart, let's hear.
All right. So I actually approached Scott last semester about talking at Monday Night Live, and I kind of ended up doing that anyway, but that was more for a school project. This one is just kind of me, and I'll be sharing a little bit of my testimony tonight. I've known that I'd be speaking on this night since December, and I definitely struggled with what to say. I think I wrote and rewrote like 4 or 5 times of what I wanted to say. But a couple weeks ago, I met with Annie, and I am an artist, I guess, music, photography. I just kind of do a little bit of everything sometimes. And she wanted me to show off some of the pictures that I have taken. And so that is what I'll be doing tonight. About 6 of them are part of a photo essay that I did in a photography class last spring over COVID. I was at home, so my friend Ella is the model, you could say, in all of the pictures. But this picture is just one that I took at Indian Rock. It's one of my favorites. I just thought I should have an introductory picture. But photo essays, if anybody doesn't know, it's supposed to tell a story through the pictures, and you shouldn't really have to have any type of discussion about like what does this mean. Like you should kind of get the idea, even if you don't fully get it. But I decided to do my photo essay over my story of mental health issues and mostly struggling with some depression. For me, it's a lot easier for me to just write a song, write just down in general and a journal, take pictures, as you'll see some. That's kind of how I more get my feelings out. I don't really like to talk about it. My friends are giving me looks over here. So, yeah, this is a little bit new for me to get up here and do all of this, but I wanted to be able to share my story in a way that feels like me. And just to give you guys a little bit of a fair warning, I kind of jump around some verses. I'll do my best to direct Kayla, and hopefully you guys will get everything. So, Kayla, yeah. So this is my first picture. I was just going to do a little bit of background story. So I grew up in church, in a First Baptist church back in my hometown. I was saved at the age of 8 years old. My church family back there is super important to me. Love them to death. Most of them I've grown up, like they've seen me from the time I was born up until the time I graduated, and now when I go back and everything. That's just kind of how my church family has worked. My dad is a deacon, and he's been a deacon for as long as I can remember. My mom does children's ministries. I've spent a lot of time at the church. church, very involved in my youth group, very involved every Sunday we were there. And that's just kind of what I was used to, and I kind of became known as the church girl in my school, because I was about the only one by the time high school came around that it was a pretty regular thing for me to be going to. But something this picture shows a little bit is that we're broken people in a broken world. You can go to the next slide. So hopefully you can all read that, but this is Genesis 3:6, and it says, "When the woman saw that the fruit of the tree was good for food and pleasing to the eye and also desirable for gaining wisdom, she took some and she ate it." So the moment that Eve took that fruit and she ate of that tree, we became broken people. It's the story of the fall, and most people probably know that story, even if they're not really church people. And that's where we became broken. And I think it's really easy for us to sometimes start looking at ourselves in fractured pieces, like this is shown in the mirror. So this next one, I don't know how well you can read what's written on it. I wrote a little bit about some of the thoughts that I think run through a lot of people's heads, but mainly ran through my head quite a bit, even before I knew that I struggled with any type of depression or mental health. And those are, I'm not good enough, no one cares, and it's all in your head. And then there's another one over there that just says, "I'm okay," which I'll talk about that phrase a little bit later on. Growing up, I struggled to fit a little bit with the mold that the people saw me as. There were some people that saw me as one person, and then my school people, my friends and everyone kind of saw me as a different person, and I tried really hard to push myself into that person for those different groups of people, and that really wasn't, it was hard for me because it wasn't the girl I was. So I kind of use the term when you try to put a square peg in a circle hole. It just doesn't go. And I'm still kind of doing that at times, you know. With all of I've recently changed my major and dropped some stuff and trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. But I started to put my worth in the wrong places, both good and bad, but none of those were really God. For one, I put a lot of my worth into music. That was my livelihood in high school. It was kind of how I defined myself. And so recently I've dropped my music major, and doing that and kind of taking that step and saying, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't kind of what I'm wanting to do with my life. Kind of felt like I was taking a huge part of myself away, and it made me feel a little bit lost. This next verse up here, Psalm 139:13-14, says, "For you created my inmost being, you knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful, and I know that full well." So, this verse says to me that God created us in his own image. And there's another verse in Genesis that says we were created in the image of God. And he knew us before we were born. So he knew every struggle we were going to go through. He knew every happy thing we were going to go through. He knew that we were going to have a little bit of trouble tonight, and that it might throw people off, throw the typical way of Monday Night Alive off. He knew that was going to happen. But we are also fearfully and wonderfully made. And so even though we're broken, God loves us. And he doesn't put these thoughts that are in this picture in our head. Because those aren't the thoughts of someone who's made in the image of God. Those thoughts come from Satan himself. And to throw in a little bit of music, there's a wonderful song by We Are Messengers called Made in the Image of God. If you guys want to listen to it, check it out. It's pretty cool. So this next picture, personally this one was my favorite out of all of the photo essays that I did. I think it shows what a lot of us do, and which is put on a mask. Whether that's because of depression or other mental health, or if it's just for other reasons, I don't know. But one of the biggest lies that I think that we're told is that I'm okay or I'm fine, which goes back to the other part. If you'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So Matthew West has a song called Truth Be Told. And in that, his lyrics say, I say I'm fine, yeah I'm fine, oh I'm fine, okay I'm fine, but I'm not, I'm broken. And when it's out of control, I say it's under control, but it's not, and you know it. I don't know why it's so hard to admit it, when being honest is the only way to fix it. There's no failure, no fall, there's no sin you don't already know, so let the truth be told. And I think that this song is an amazing representation of what we all lie about on vacation. I'm sure almost every single person has said to someone, oh, I'm fine, I'm doing great. When on the inside you're like, no, I'm not, why did I say that? I don't know. There's a line on there, I'm going to go back to that one real quick. There's a line on there that says, I don't know why it's so hard to admit it. And I don't know about you guys, but I struggle with that a lot. I'm really good about putting on the mask and saying that I'm fine when I'm not, and then not being able to admit when I'm struggling. And that's something I'm working on and I'm getting better about, but it's still really hard. And I'm sure that other people go through that too. You can go to the verse now. So Colossians 3:9-10 says, do not lie to each other, since you have taken off your old self with its practices and have put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge in the image of its creator. Colossians 3:9-10. So then again, we have the image of its creator. And I think this is important because obviously lying is a sin, but I think it's important not to lie to yourself, but it's also you shouldn't lie to other people, especially when it's about yourself and not being okay, because it's really easy to dig yourself into a hole. I struggle with vulnerability, sorry, I can't talk. So it's definitely hard for me to be up here. Again, it's something that I'm working on, and with Annie and a bunch of other people, and I'm trying to get better about saying, I'm not okay, when I'm really not. I'm not always open about when I'm hurting, and I've never really been good about it. I'm an introvert, and I keep to myself quite well, and I will lock myself in my room sometimes, or escape to Indian Rock, and my friends are giving me looks again, because they will definitely come either drag me out of my room or corner me at Indian Rock or something along those lines to make sure that I'm being somewhat healthy and socializing and not isolating myself. So this picture was probably my second favorite. I'm not sure how well you guys can see exactly what's going on in the background, but to give a little, that is a cage. It's my dog's cage. I had to work with what I had. And inside it's a bunch of blankets, and it's kind of hard to see because of the contrast and everything, but that's kind of, it's full, and it's like pushing out of the cage. And the cage kind of looks like it's about to burst, basically. So my junior year is when, of high school, is when I really kind of started struggling with depression. I didn't know what it was. It just kind of came on and was very sudden, and I just had no clue what was happening. So I kind of felt very alone and confused during that time. My first instinct was to start praying to God. I knew that's what I should do, being a church girl, going to Sunday school, everything. That was my first instinct, and I did it for a while. And then I eventually stopped because I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted, or at least I thought I wasn't getting the answers I wanted, and I felt more alone, like God wasn't there, which I now know is not true. And I'll look back on times and I will see things that God was showing me, no, he's still here, you kind of have to go through this first. One of those things was music. I had a playlist that I played on repeat for probably about a straight year. And that was the one thing that kind of really kept me connected, because even though I told myself I wasn't going to go to church when I got to college, I wasn't going to be involved at all, I still went in high school because I knew what was expected of me. But I kind of told myself I wasn't going to do it anymore. But despite all of that, the music that I listened to all the time was Christian music. And that is the one thing that kept me connected, and singing on the praise band at my hometown. So in the background, again, there's the cage, and it's about caging your emotions. I'm very good about that. Again, it comes from not telling you that I'm okay. It's something that I'm working on, but when you cage your emotions, it's got negative consequences. And for me, I tend to shut down and become very overwhelmed. Like in this picture here, that's kind of what I tried to have her portray, is that she just kind of overwhelmed because there's a lot going on in that back. And eventually, that cage is going to burst open and it's just going to be a whole mess of emotions everywhere and you're just going to kind of not know how to deal with it. But the verse I made that they have is Isaiah 43:1, which is part of one of my favorite verses. It says, "Do not fear, for I have redeemed you. I have summoned you by name, and you are mine." I love this verse. It's a lot like Isaiah 41:10, which I'm sure most of you have heard of. It's very popular. "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." I think that one is a great verse, but I love this verse because I think it's very powerful in a different way. It specifically says that God has redeemed us. He calls us by our name, and we are his. So as long as we are trusting God, we'll never be alone. Even if it doesn't feel like He is there. He is. You just have to find the little things that shows that he loves and cares for you. Sometimes you can't always do that in the moment, but one of my favorite things has been going back and kind of looking at my season of darkness and picking out where God was in that time. And like I said, one of those was music, and one of them was my mentor at the time that I had in high school. And I know that those were God's ways of showing me he was there during that time. And later on, he brought me here. So you can go to the next picture. So, if you can't tell, this is just to kind of help move the story along. She is looking at a therapist's website, looking at getting counseling. And this is kind of the start of my walk back towards God. Summer before college, I made the decision that I was going to get back into my faith. I went to Super Summer here at Webster Conference Center in Salina, which I had gone to since I was old enough to go. And I kind of just, that week I realized that I wanted to get back in my faith and that the only person that could help me get over this was God. I met Annie here, actually the first weekend that I came to town. My parents plugged me in First Southern Baptist Church, and the pastor's wife came up. We were talking to her, and she was like, "You have to meet this woman." And she ran off, and she grabbed Annie, and she brought her back, and she was like, "This is Annie Boswell. You need to go to life groups and all of this stuff." So that's kind of how I first got to know Annie, and Annie has helped me a lot to talk about and process everything that had happened. I know that God gave me her to kind of help me out because she also convinced me that I should go to therapy. This is actually my therapist's website. I've been seeing Christina for about a year now, and it has helped me so much. I have become more open, and the only reason I'm able to stand here and talk to you guys tonight about some of this stuff is because of my work that I've done with Christina and the work that I've done with Annie. Because freshman year Mallory would have not have done this in a million years. I would have been freaked out and was like, "Oh no, I can't tell my story up here." It's just not a thing. We're working on vulnerability, we're working on a bunch of stuff, and it's really hard to make the decision that you need help in therapy. It took me about a year of being here before Annie finally convinced me that this is something that I should do. We talked about it for quite a bit before that. I tried one place, and I didn't like it, didn't connect with the therapist well at all, and so if you ever do come to that decision, it helps to find the right person. You don't connect with everybody, and so you just have to find the right person, and eventually it'll work out, and it's so super helpful. Even if you don't have anything huge or like traumatic that you need to talk about, it's a person that's you have confidentiality, and they're just gonna talk to you or listen to you if that's all you need. And I personally just think it's very helpful. So you can go to the next one. Oh, just kidding. I didn't talk about the verse that's up here. I didn't have it in my notes. Hebrews 12:1 says, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles." And Annie has talked about this with us in life groups, and I think it's just important, that first part, to surround yourself with a great cloud of witnesses, because they're the ones that are going to be able to help you. God can help you too, but it's really important to have a group of support around you that are going to want to support you and uplift This last picture, I wanted to show the beautifully broken sign in color. I thought it made a really big impact. The cross is made out of broken glass. And then if you guys can't tell in the back of the picture, the cage is still there. There's still stuff in the cage, but the door's open to the cage, and it's not as big. It's there, but it's not as big. So we may be broken, but with God, I like to say we are beautifully broken. This is something that came to me last year during quarantine, and I just think it's just really cool. I don't know how many of you have heard of Lisa Turkers, but she's got a book called It's Not Supposed to Be This Way. And in that book, she says that we are imperfect because we are unfinished. And I thought that was just a really cool line because we are imperfect. We're never going to be perfect on this world. And that's because we're unfinished. And we won't be finished until we're in heaven. And she also says that our pain and suffering isn't to hurt us, it's to save us. So I still go through hard times. I still struggle with quite a bit, but I know now that eventually I'll get out of it, and it's for a reason. One of those reasons being up here and talking to you tonight. It might be helping ministry along the way when I'm older, this summer when I'm working at a youth internship with Lane over there. This is a quote from Mark Batterson's If, saying, "We are prisoners of our past. Jesus came to put the past in the past. Jesus didn't die just to forgive you, he died to change you." I'm really good about kind of getting stuck in my past and kind of letting it define me a little bit. And we shouldn't do that. The past is the past. We can't change it. We can't do anything. So we just have to recognize that it's there, but we have to move on from it. My life and current walk with God is I have grown a lot in my faith since I came here freshman year. Being up here, talking tonight, being up here minister, going to church every Sunday. Freshman year, I was definitely bad about it. You want to be able to sleep in on Sundays, but now I'm really good about getting up and going because I want to go, not because I'm being forced to go. I meet with Annie quite a bit, and we talk, and we go through stuff. Quiet time is something that I still struggle with, honestly. It's just hard for me, but I try to do it as much as I can. I find that it's really easy for me to get to books, like It's Not Supposed to Be This Way, If. This verse was also with that quote. It says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past." Mark Batterson quoted that in his book, along with talking about us not dwelling on the past. You can go to the next slide. So now I just wanted to share some of my favorite verses with you. This is a picture I took at Indian Rock. I know that the font's a little hard to read, but this is Isaiah 40:2, and it's my absolutely favorite verse. It says, "When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and though through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you." I found this verse, honestly, on Google. I think I just Google searched verses about being overwhelmed, or something along those lines, and this one popped up, and I just think it's a great verse. It talks about with God, you're not going to be alone, and you're not going to be overwhelmed, and you can basically go through anything as long as you're with God. And then this last one is Romans 8:28. "And we know in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose." This one is something that I love because it reminds me that God has a purpose for us, even if we don't know. Right now, I'm really struggling with what I'm going to do. I don't really have a plan. I'm just going to graduate and kind of sit around here and work for a little bit, and that's kind of my plan right now. And sometimes it's really hard because you want to be able to have a plan, and you want to be able to say, "I'm going to do this," and sometimes God's plan for us is for us to not know. So I really love this verse because it's just a reminder that God has a purpose for us, and eventually we'll learn of that purpose. This is a picture of my barn that I took at home just for some reference there. That's all I had tonight. I'll invite the band back up, and I'll pray for us. God, thank you for tonight. Thank you for allowing all of these wonderful people to be here, God. I know that we ran into some interesting things at the beginning of the service, but you had a plan for it all, and you knew what was going to happen, God. I just pray that everyone walks out of here safe and just kind of ready to tackle the rest of the week. And I know that it's getting towards that time where we are ready for a break, and we're not going to get that. So I just pray that you're with every student, because I know that it'll be really difficult, God. Just be with us all for the rest of the week and the rest of the semester. In Jesus' name I pray.
invite everybody to come up here. There's nothing special about this platform. It's just a platform. But when you worship God together, it becomes more than that. When you're out in the pews, they're just pieces of wood that you sit on. But when you worship God, it becomes more than that. It becomes a house. It's theater for God, where we are giving God everything. And I know there's a couple coming down. I'll wait for them here. Don't rush. Don't fall down the steps.
Crazy Monday, let's go.
Monday. Monday's Monday. It's all good.
So Tuesday, I suppose.
Now, I know we're in the midst of a pandemic and it's COVID. So reach out your elbows, and if you can touch somebody's elbows, awesome. If you have to ghost elbow them, that's fine too. It's all good. If you have to reach out your drumsticks in the presence of somebody, that's awesome too. I say often, when you gather in God's name, all the craziness that happens in the world melts away. Doesn't mean it disappears, because the craziness is going to be out there still. Hopefully not cray right now. But I want to invite you, and I'm going to challenge you to pray for prayer. And pray for Karens, or Jills, or Bills, or whoever else out there that they just need you to pray for. But I want you to pray for the person right next to you, and the person behind you, or in front of you, who's in the doorway next to you. Maybe you don't know what's going on inside their head or inside their heart. They may look great on the outside. They may be crying out on the inside and looking good on the outside. We don't know until you just reach out and say, you know what? I don't know nothing about nothing, but all I know is I can listen to you and I can pray with you. And it may be the most awkward prayer you ever pray. And you may stutter. You may say a wrong word. But the beauty of it is God knows what's really in your heart anyway. I want to pray for you guys. I pray that you would know this God through Jesus Christ. I would pray that you would have the courage to let your face shine out, even when it doesn't seem appropriate. I would pray that if you have a place right now where you're like, I don't know about this in my life, or this question I'm answering, or about where God's leading me, or about a relationship I have, I'm going to challenge you to take it to God. But I'm also going to challenge you to talk to somebody else. Whether it's somebody on campus ministry staff, or one of the peer ministers, or this whoever's standing next to you, grab them on the arm and say, we've got to talk. God, I ask that you would just watch over this group. And those who aren't able to be here tonight. God, we're all screw-ups, and every day sometimes seems like a Monday. But we know that you created money, so it's got to be good. I pray that you would keep these folks safe, healthy, hungry for knowledge of who you are and who they are in you. God, we are prisoners of past because Jesus came. If we put our faith in Christ and we have our heart towards God, we know that you know our name and you count us by the hairs of our head or the lack thereof in some cases. Dear God, I pray that you would be with them. Amen. Amen. Go forth. See you next week.